back to the Book Connection. I'm Catalina, and today is going to be our little Thanksgiving special. I'm just going to go through 5 books that I'm thankful for. So these 5 books that I have that I'm going to show you are the ones that kind of shaped me into the person I am, and the writer that I am, and the collector that I am. So without further ado, let's get started. This first one is The Shadows Between Us by Tricia Levenseller, and I didn't read this when I was younger, because most of these I did, but this one I didn't. This one I actually read, it was a little bit after I had moved away to go to college, and that was such a big thing for me, because not only am I going out on my own for the first time, my parents lived in Germany, we're a military family, so they were living in Germany as I moved to Florida. So not only was there the physical distance between us, there was also a time difference. So it made it really hard to just call my mom at a random hour, like, oh, I need help with like a recipe or something. I couldn't always just call her like most people can. And of course, when I went to college too, it was right during COVID. Like as soon as I went to college, COVID started and the whole lockdown situation started. So I hadn't really been able to make a whole lot of friends yet because I had literally just moved there like a month before all that happened. So I was kind of just by myself in my apartment, with books being my only friend. And even then though, I wasn't really reading. I was just in this huge slump from reading, from life, from everything. But then I met, some of my friends that I still have today. One of them edits this video for me. Shout out to Giovanni. But I also met my fiance at the time, which obviously we've been together for 3 years now. I'm getting married to this man, so obviously he means a lot to me. And I read this book during that time, so I just always associate this book with those memories, and it just makes me feel really good inside. So it means a lot to me. It's a good story too. This is about Alessandra, who has decided that she is going to kill the Shadow King and become the queen herself. But then things start to reveal themselves as she's in the castle with him and as she's getting closer to this king, and she's starting to realize that maybe not everything's as it seems. Like, maybe it's not what everybody's saying. And so she keeps finding ways to, delay killing him, and you can just see it. It's a cute little love story, and at the time that I read it, that was really what I needed. So I'm very thankful for this book. Now we're going to go a little bit further into my past, and we're actually going to go pretty much to the beginning of when I first started reading, full chapter books. And of course, it's Harry Potter. I have the Sorcerer's Stone, obviously, because I'm American. I want the British copies that are Philosopher's Stone, because I think that's hilarious that Americans were too dumb to understand what a Philosopher's Stone was. I don't really think I need to explain what this book is about. Everybody knows Harry Potter by now. But this was the first book that I really read, and it was like the start of my obsession with reading. So, of course, I have to give a shout out to Harry Potter. This next one is probably the one I read just a little bit after. I think it was in 3rd or 4th grade. So, this one is called Malice by Chris Wooding, and it's really cool because it's written part chapter book, part comic book. And with this freaking sick-ass cover, and look at that. Look how cool that is. This is the book that actually got me into collecting books, not just reading them, but actually keeping them, displaying them, and then, like I said, that started in 3rd or 4th grade, and then it became this. So, we can see how things happened, progressed. So this is about a secret comic book that you have to try really, really hard to find, but the thing is, there's a rumor that once you read it, something bad happens to you, and it's right. What happens is that once you read it, you are written into the story, and if that happens, you literally become in the story. You transfer worlds, so you're no longer in reality, you're in this comic book, and it's so dangerous because if you die in the comic book, you die in real life. The art in it is fantastic, and it's so gruesome, so it's a little interesting to me that this is considered middle grade with how dark it is. But I loved this book. I actually accidentally got rid of it once. I was like, oh, I read it. I'm not going to read it again. Lies. So I bought it back. I got rid of it and I bought it back. So yeah, that's obviously how much this means to me. But it's a really cool story, and with it being part comic book, it makes reading it really fast. Like, you're not really thinking about it, and then by the time you're done, you're like, wow, I read that. That's crazy. It does have a second book. It is just a duology. There's no more that I know of. If there were, that'd be cool. It's a really cool book, as I said. Like, not only is the freaking cover cool, the inside of it is a really interesting way to write a book. And I love that they've combined the different kind of arts into one thing. So, I love this one. Keeping on the dark theme, but going a little bit more toward reality, I was Dr. Mengel's assistant. I honestly don't know how to pronounce his name because it's Polish. So I'm not going to try. But that's the author you can see there. This is about the Holocaust, and it is a memoir of a man who was a doctor during the time. He was a Jewish doctor, and at the time of the Holocaust, they pulled aside and they kept alive the doctors because part of the Holocaust was trying to find like the perfect race. It was a hard book for me to read because it doesn't spare you any details about what happened, and it just makes you really emotional for that time. And the thing about it too is that it doesn't glorify it. I see a lot of books and just videos, whatever it is, that glorify the Holocaust and the war, and not even just that war, but any war. And I think that's a problem with us, is we shouldn't be glorifying something like that. That's not something that we need to think of as like cool, because it's not. A lot of people died. This one's just, it makes you really emotional when you're reading it, and it's not very long. So it is rather quick to read. It is translated from Polish, so some of the wording's a little funky. Some things you're like, that's not quite worded right, but you don't really care because you're reading the story and it's such an impact. And I just remember reading this. I think I was in high school. It was my sophomore year of high school. We had actually, like I said, we were living in Germany, and we were living in Italy during that time, and we had traveled to Germany, and we were actually at one of the concentration camps where I bought this book. I highly recommend reading this, even if you're just a history buff. This one. Read this one. On to a little bit of a happier note than that. Of course, I had to go with The Hobbit, The Lord of the Rings, J.R.R. Tolkien, because I love this so much. It was a really powerful story, and the movie, this is one of the very few books that I will say, if you don't want to read it, you can absolutely watch the movies. Obviously, it's not like perfect, but it is very, very close. So if you don't feel like reading these, you can watch the movies. Not so much The Hobbit. It's still good. I still like it. But the Lord of the Rings trilogy specifically, those movies are so perfect to this. And I love it. And me and my fiance have a marathon of it every so often. We actually went to a theater and we sat there for like 17 hours to watch all three extended editions. In fact, I have never not seen the extended editions. That's what I started with watching, and that's what I've watched since. On Netflix, they had the Lord of the Rings just for a little bit, but I watched it and I realized it wasn't the extended edition because they skipped a whole scene that I'm so used to seeing, and then I was like, but where's the scene? And that was me realizing that I've never seen the regular cut. But yeah, it also just inspired me to bring God into my own writing, because the way it's written, you wouldn't think that it was biblical really at all. Unless you like know the Bible, or like if you'd read that little fact already, you wouldn't really recognize that. That's what I want to do with my own writing, is kind of just bring in a biblical message without shoving it in your face. For a while, I was actually an atheist, and it was because like I didn't feel any connection, and every time I tried to talk to someone about it, it was just kind of like forced and like shoved down my throat, like, you have to believe. And I'm like, actually, I don't. And you don't. If you don't want to, by no means am I going to sit here and be like, believe. That's definitely a personal choice. But for me, I then read this. I read one of the scripts that my fiance wrote, and I really could relate it to my life. And I made the switch. I feel better about that, but again, that's up to everyone. You don't have to do anything that you don't want to. But yeah, so that being said, I just really love this. So this is the final one that I have. This is my 5. I'm counting this as 1. So those are my 5 books that I am thankful for. Again, I wouldn't be who I am today without these books, and they just mean a lot to me. So if you haven't read any of these ones, give them a shot. See what you think and let me know in the comments. So that's all I have for you, and I will connect with you in the next video. Bye!